the entrance there on Merrill. There's also a significant elevation change there. So that would just mess up a lot of things further down where we're trying to level everything out. So it's a lot more ADA friendly.
Yep.
And then regarding site lighting, I do intend on submitting an amendment with site lighting. Just wanted to get them nailed down on the actual final layout with all the parking and everything. So that will be an amendment we will file. If you do look at the permit electrical drawings that I submitted, there, I already list the fixture I would like to use for those pole mounted fixtures. It's just a matter of doing the photometrics with the final layout.
Okay. All right.
If I may be able to address some additional questions. My name is Luke Gill, as you mentioned. I'm with DES Engineering. Chris, you had mentioned you drive big truck, you like big parking spaces. I do too. I hate getting out of the car and door dinging somebody. A lot of these on site are 10 by 20s. There's a few 9 by 18s, there's some 10 by 18s, but we did try to make them larger. You got moms coming in SUVs with their kids. It is tight. Every one of you acknowledge that. In regards to the dumpster location, there's not a great spot for it. You don't want to put it next to the houses. You don't want to put it next to the highway. You don't want to put it next to either street. So it ends up in the center of your parking lot, which is not optimal. The truck should be able to come in, come left, pull forward, back up to the dumpster, dump, pull forward, pull back, and then come out. It's not perfect, but with the limited site area we have in the maximizing of parking spaces, as we are truly going to need every space.
Yeah.
Is there anything that we left unaddressed?
Any questions for the petitioner?
As far as the landscaping, if the idea is to, you mentioned the elevation change, it's understandable.
Mhm.
Keep the headlights out, like Adam was saying to the residences across Merrill. Those are going to need to be taller than just small shrubs.
Adam, if you can you pull the site plan up, please? I have not specifically called out what every plant will be thus far, but I've given a general gist as to what we're looking at as far as item. So along Merrill Street on the western edge of the main parking area, looking for some type of evergreen, 5-6 feet tall, fairly skinny, as we don't have a lot of room between the sidewalk and the parking lot. So these will have to be relatively skinny, relatively tall, but that will block a vision barrier along there.
Yeah.
And then along the south side, you've got some evergreens there as well.
So if we're talking, like, one of the reasons to not allow entrance off Merrill is for the headlights. What are the dentists and the office hours of operation going to be?
8 to 5.
So we don't really, I don't see a whole lot of headlights being used at that point in time. My other question would be, so if we're talking about expanding the south alley to 20 feet and then shaving off those angled spaces to become parallels so that we can allow truck traffic in there like the UPS and delivery trucks, if you opened up off Merrill, they wouldn't have that problem. And you could keep those angled spaces and you'd make up for the spaces that you would lose there. Yes or no?
We looked at the option of having an entrance off Merrill. You're moving a utility pole, you're moving a guy wire, you're losing street parking on Merrill, along with the elevation grade that I'm going to end up draining water back onto the street, which is pretty much an engineering no-no. I get my hand slapped all the time for that one. We just decided it'd be better to use the existing alley, improve it, and make it work. We looked at the option, just decided it was not worth the walls of that option.
Then my question would be for you then, since you're talking about, like, your wife would own the largest business in there, the dentistry, correct? Or be one of the doctors there.
Right. So that's just one of 10 businesses that
Right.
will be on.
But I mean, you have a dog in that fight. So do you think that only having access to the parking lot from that south alley is going to be a problem for your business?
I don't think so. 'Cause, so at least from the dental office standpoint, they start their days early, 5, 6 a.m. Once everyone arrives, it's just your patients coming in. So that you get rid of the main bulk of the traffic coming in of employees first thing in the morning.
And I would have more concern with that, I guess, if this was a see the sign, stop and shop type place.
Yeah.
But you got a dentist appointment, you're going to the dentist office, whether you got to drive around the block 6 times type deal.
I mean, that's kind of the question I would have here is, what kind of impact to the businesses would we be having by only allowing that entrance? But I
So
mean,
all of the businesses that are currently in the Fortville Business Center are appointment based. You have Freedom Medical, they deal with IV bags and other healthcare, weight loss. All of those are appointment. You have a couple psychologists, those are all by appointment, massage therapist. Right now there's an acupuncturist, and there is only one other business that is just an office. So they do nonprofit work. That is the only business that is not appointment based, but once again, those are all employees that come in and you're not getting visitors from the public.
I mean, that kind of answers my question for that one. Thank you.
All right, any other questions for the petitioner?
I think I have a question for Matt and David. And maybe you're not there yet, but do you have any concept like building elevations for 401, 411?
So we submitted 401, and those have also been submitted to the state for approval. So there are elevations on those drawings right now.
Okay.
And I think Adam might have a copy of those as well.
Yeah, for 401, it was basically the same as what's there
Yeah,
now.
Just,
we're
And the
just,
same for what was already
for
permitted.
exterior, we're just
It was
changing
just
the
changing.
exterior to hardy plank. And any single pane windows, we would change to dual pane. And that's the extent of the exterior, other than adding the ADA ramp.
okay.
Back, yeah.
And the intent is very similar for 401.
Correct.
Okay.
For
Or 411, I'm sorry.
Basically same intent, except we would be completely gutting the inside.
Okay,
There's a lot of mold damage in there. So that one, our only option is to gut it, replace the roof, and then kind of rebuild it.
okay.
I mean, I would add too, from a planning perspective, that the whole team has been good to work with and that they've been receptive to different ideas that, sometimes developers get agitated about. So I just want to thank them for, you guys might disagree on some things, but at least for what we try to work out, I think I'm very good to work with.
What kind of businesses would we expect to occupy the two homes there on Merrill Street that would be converted to businesses?
So 401, we do have a tenant that will be signing a lease for that. So right now on the second floor of the business center is Freedom Medical. We are repurposing that second floor as a break room for the dental office due to the large staff. So they will be moving to that house, so they'll have the whole house for their business. So they're also outgrowing the current suite they're in. So they're going to benefit from that. And then the other one, we're prepping it for office space, but we have had interest from photographers and other service provided industries.
So I mean, you're seeing interest in those locations, not just, okay.
Yeah, we probably get a call every week about available space to see if there's anything.
All right, any other questions?
I do have one comment, if I may.
Sure.
So during the demo phase of 406, we did discover some structural issues along the way. We are working with a structural engineer to get that fixed properly. There are two things from the site plan which I would like to make you aware of. So on the front, we have 8-foot windows shown. We're going to have to reduce those to 4-foot windows, still 8 feet tall, but they can't be 8 feet wide due to the structural problems. And then where we show the storefront, we're looking into other options because that whole wall is a shear wall. So we're looking to do window space, double door, kind of in a pattern that matches the rest of the building. We just can't do the storefront because we risk the wind blowing the building down.
Adam, is that something that'll come back before us, or do we just, if we approve, because it's not finalized?
I would say that would be within the scope of a modification from concept that staff reviews
Sure.
the final.
Okay. Okay. Appreciate that update. Thank you very much.
I guess I do have a follow-up question. So, I know it was already mentioned that we're going to do away with the monument that's a sign that's out front. What is the signage just going to be building placed then?
So we were hoping to do one that hangs off the building.
Okay.
We'd like to, and we can revisit this out of variance later on. We'd like to make it bigger than what the current requirements are, just because we're getting rid of a sign that was nice and big for advertising.
Right.
So we'll revisit that, but we're hoping to hang it off the front and maybe just have a post that holds it up and have it higher up so you could see through the bottom of it, so it won't be a sight issue.
Okay.
Yeah, we clean that up.
Sure. Yeah. Board of Zoning will, or the variance will definitely have to go.
Yeah.
Okay. And but the front, is there a true front of this dentistry office? Is it the one on the alley, or is it facing Broadway, or is it just kind of a multi?
So the main entrance is going to be right off the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So facing west, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Just curious.
How high would the sign sit off the ground?
Right now, our initial proposal is to be 7 feet off the ground. But this is something we can work with Adam to coordinate when we submit it for the variance.
Sure.
I would be curious if that would still be a sightline issue for buses and semi trucks.
So yeah, I think we're pretty receptive. I mean, if we need to raise it another couple feet, as long as, you know, it looks good in the field.
But you really don't like the idea of turning it 90 degrees and mounting it to the building?
Personally, I don't foresee that being seen, I guess, as you're
Yeah.
going by. I don't see
agree.
you seeing that sign. It's not my business. But on my client's behalf, I believe that coming out perpendicular or something of that type would be, you know, the most visible way to see their business.
Right now at the stoplight, even more so.
Yeah.
The current sign is massive and it is a site problem. There's no denying that. They've already removed the roof off the sign, reduced the height by 3.5 feet or so. It was huge.
So between,
Yeah, and just so you're aware, we looked it up today and the zoning ordinance, it gives some specifications on the site visibility easement as it pertains to height. And what it says is that any area between 2.5 feet and 12 feet is supposed to be kept clear.
So 2 feet to 12 feet would interfere with the 7 feet they're talking about.
Right. But the whole, the whole issue is really kicked to the Board of Zoning Appeals for
yeah,
that.
BZA, in between the concerns Adam raised with this as well as the BZA, I'm confident that they'll tackle the concern appropriately. But we'll let them handle that aspect of it. Okay. Anything else? Any last comments, questions for the petitioner? If not, we will, if you guys can hang around, we may call you back up. We're going to allow public comment and then we'll give you a chance to respond to any potential comments that come up. So thank you. All right, moving along. Appreciate everyone's patience tonight. This is a lengthy case. We'll move to the public response portion of the meeting. If anybody is in the audience or online that would like to speak for or against the case, you may come to the microphone or speak up on Zoom. I would ask that you say and spell your name and your address, please. Okay, we got someone coming up.
Hey, good evening. My name is Garrett McWhorter. I live at 520 South Merrill Street. I'm very concerned about the traffic that this is going to bring down Merrill Street. So I stand here today in strong opposition to this proposal, not out of resistance to growth or progress, but out of commitment to preserving what makes the town special. The town was built on a foundation of neighborhoods, community connections, and the charm that comes with a strong residential base. However, each residential property flipped to commercial use, we lose another piece of that identity. We see houses that were once family homes where retirees were, young couples turned to storefronts, offices, parking lots. This gradual shift transforms our town from a place where people live, raise their families, and build connections into just another commercial corridor. Take a moment to think about these streets that you've always loved. How many of them already feel different? How many of them are dominated by traffic and noise? The change doesn't come without costs. Increased commercial development in residential areas. Streets that were designed for residential use are now overrun with vehicles coming and going from businesses, creates traffic and safety concerns, especially for children and pedestrians. There's a lot of foot traffic down Merrill Street, kids walking by. And just the road's property values, the charm and appeal of living in our neighborhood diminishes with commercial properties start encroaching, often leading to a decline in property values of surrounding homes. Strains on the infrastructure, our streets, water systems, and parking availability now being pushed beyond their original capacity, like we've seen with Elite Beverages, where they had to move back there. So yeah, we've already seen the consequences of this trend. The rezoning of 225 West Garden Street has already led to concerns about increased traffic, congestion, and noise complaints, to loss of 401 South Merrill Street, 102 South Merrill Street. Remove yet more affordable housing options from our community, making it harder for families to find homes. These examples serve as a warning. It's not a one-off decision. It's part of a larger pattern that's slowly but surely chipping away at the quality of life of the people who call this town home. Locally, our town has seen a rise in commercial zoning applications and new unwanted businesses. We have 2 gas stations in town. Another one was built on the corner. It's been sitting there empty for, I don't know, like a year now or so. Putting in another auto parts store right next to one that's been established here for a while. I urge the council and fellow residents to think carefully about the precedent this decision will set. Yes, commercial development brings short-term revenue, but at what cost? The long-term health and identity of our town is far more valuable. Let's not allow our town to lose its heart for the sake of convenience or profit. We need to prioritize residential spaces for families to grow, neighborhoods to connect, and traditions to flourish. In conclusion, I strongly urge this council to vote against this rezoning proposal. Let us preserve our neighborhoods, protect our identity, and honor the vision of our community built for its people, not just for commerce. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Would anyone else like to speak for or against this case this evening? You can say and spell your name and your address, please.
Good evening. My name is Don Waymire, spelled Donwaymire. I'm the owner of 415 South Merrill Street. So directly next to the property across the alley, that's been the big hot topic of tonight. My wife and I's main concern really does center around that alley and the general traffic of it and the impact that it'll have on our tenants that do live there at that property. There's been talk about employees coming in as early as 5 a.m., therefore driving within a few feet of our house, and that potentially disrupting our tenants' early morning life. As well, we have concerns about the hours of operation for the rented out spaces that are currently homes as to when they'll be ending their days and when they're beginning their days. It could further impact our tenants' life in that house as well. So we would like to see those addressed. I am for access to the parking lot off of South Merrill. I think that is the most logical way of handling the situation of traffic. We lived there for 5 years at this property, and there is quite a bit of traffic that does go down it. Now, I do appreciate the consideration of turning it into a one-way because we did observe regularly the problems of having it as a two-way. So we do very much appreciate that. But we do also have many concerns of all the traffic that will go down there, from the aspects of safety of foot traffic to any potential damage to our property as there is no curb, and then the general noise for our tenant. That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any others like to speak for or against the case this evening? person online? Is there anyone else on? I can't tell if we've got others on the call. All right. With that, we will move on to, we've got time on our agenda for government officials to speak on this case. If there are any, who would like to come up and say anything. Microphone? Seeing a shaking of the head? No. So we will move right on past that. Thank you. All right. Now we'll come to petitioner rebuttal. You have an opportunity if you'd like to come back up and address anything that you heard from the public.
Do I need to say my name again?
No.
Okay.
We got you on record.
So I don't really have a large prepared response to you guys about this, but I will say we're doing our best to do this the safest way possible, getting the right design professionals involved. We're not a large developer. We're trying to work with the community and grow with it as well. And then in regards to what the current traffic is on that road already, those businesses aren't going anywhere. So it would, regardless of whether this goes through or not, that part's not really going to change. But we are doing our best to make sure it doesn't interfere with the people who live there as much as we can. Thank you.
Right. Thank you. All right. Does anybody on the commission have any questions or clarifications that they would like addressed at this time?
I do. So, goes back to this alley. Right now, it's not really adequate for two-way traffic. Is that correct, Adam?
Correct.
And you're proposing that it be widened and modify the parking for at least half of it to be two-way, the other remain one-way. Who foots the bill for that? Is that a town or is that something the petitioner? I mean, I guess what I'm trying to determine is whether or not that goes into our motion and conditions and things like that.
The petitioner would
For
pay
the
to do that.
petitioner to take care of the widening of the alley. Okay. Do we happen to have a picture of that alley in real time?
Actually.
I would like to see that again. I don't know if we can even see
Yeah.
some of our, the public's housing that's there and
Also have a follow-up question about that section.
Okay. Just want to share it with the Zoom. Let's see.
yeah,
Currently,
yeah,
Oh.
it is kind of narrow.
that 20 feet with a bump out.
Oh, yes. Okay. Hmm.
Okay.
Okay. I don't have any other questions. I'm just trying to get a visual and understanding the public response here and,
What's the current width of the alley? Sorry.
no, go right ahead.
Do we know? Is it
That
10 feet?
I don't know. I would speculate
Well,
about.
we're going to 20 with
Yeah, I
10
speculate about
feet.
10 feet right now.
okay. Low speed you can get.
And,
It's two-way.
and what happens if this is increased? First of all, Mr. Waymeyer, is yours the tan house or where the fence is?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks, because you can't really tell from these pictures. So I know back a couple of months ago when we were here for 401 South Merrill project, I know that what's going to happen, because I know that there are tenants in the tan house or tan yellow house, and that right now part of their parking is they're on, I hate to call it the alley. When that alley is increased, what's going to happen to their parking? I mean, will it be increased a little bit on each property?
Just on the
or
western part of the.
just on the petitioner's property. Okay, so it won't impact the house that's here there. Oh, so this is the only width that they're going to double.
Correct. So it's gonna be one way to here,
Oh, so only half of it is gonna be,
two-way. So
I see.
Here's,
so they'll
Yeah.
have to put up some,
Clear
they'll have to
picture.
put up some signage here that says, do not enter, going this way.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, Jason, I'll let you.
My concern about that alley is, so in the revised drawing, it would widen the alley on that second half and turn those into 3 parallel parking spaces. In a two-way street, how is somebody gonna, if they're coming from Merrill Street, how do they park there? Do they have to turn into the alley and then 3-point and then back out that way?
Yeah.
Or are we gonna have people trying to park facing the wrong way?
Yes, please. Can you come to the
I
mic?
think I'm just for folks.
Raise
online.
it. It's up on
The mic does not pick up from back there.
So those parallel parking spaces, which nobody likes parallel parking, let's be
No.
honest about it.
ears.
But-
Take 'em.
But we need the spaces for the businesses. They cannot be accessed coming in from Merrill. You're gonna have to come, yeah. What I foresee happening is the people working at that house right there, they're gonna park in the parallel parking spaces and leave the better parking for the customers. That's gonna be your best solution. If you come during a busy time, I know I won't parallel park. I'll drive around the block sometimes to not parallel park. But if it's the workers coming in and they single file pull into those, that fills up your parking, that keeps it out of your main lot, and they can be all the way up against the edge. The aisle is to be expanded directly to the north, nothing to the south. It'll be fully repaved. I have to regrade it to make sure everything drains, graded properly. That is how I foresee things going optimally.
So if the idea is to make it easier for truck traffic in there, why can't we just knock off that first diagonal parking space and then that would still give you it would give you additional spaces rather than just 3?
I believe the concern was more with getting into the alley rather than maneuvering through the parking lot. Otherwise, yeah, we'd knock off that one space and call it a day. But I think the concern was getting into the alley from the east side. The building is extremely close to the edge of the alley, probably breaking all current setback rules, but since it's grandfathered. I believe
But on
that-
the east side, they're not gonna widen that street.
Correct.
So
So the
that
garbage-
problem is gonna remain there whether or not you widen the west side or not.
But by widening the west side, we're allowing entrance from the west side where the garbage truck can come in.
Right.
Whereas previously it was one way. You'd
Okay,
have
so
to-
you prefer the parallel over the diagonal spaces?
I wouldn't say that. I don't think anybody prefers parallel, but considering we need the parking and we need a wider entrance for those larger trucks coming in, that is our best available option.
Okay.
I would love another half acre on this side, but
I'd love to, I don't.
I don't have it.
Can't do that.
Yeah.
Adam, to address one of the comments I did here as well, the flip of 411, the rezone, is a compromise where previously the request was going to be just to demolish the thing and we were just going to have parking on that lot. Is that correct?
Correct.
And that is something that's within the purview of the developer. They would have to come here for some approvals, right? But that, the initial request was, so what we're considering really, what I want to make sure that as we're thinking through this, it's not necessarily that this is are we keeping this residential? Are we gonna have a parking lot or are we gonna preserve the character of a house in a business sense, right?
Yeah, I
Because
mean.
the initial request would have been just to level the thing. So we're losing the residential piece regardless.
Yeah, just to be clear, is that whether you're on the plan commission or ultimately the town council, is if you wanted that property 411 to stay residential, then you'd want to vote no or give it a negative recommendation.
Right.
For the idea of going to commercial. But what I had mentioned from a planning perspective, it seemed like a good compromise to, rather than tear it down entirely and have parking, you're still retaining a house that dates from the 30s, and it would be refreshed.
Is the rezone required if they were to demolish and turn it into a parking lot?
Yes,
Okay, so that still would be required. So the rezone is
Correct.
required regardless.
correct.
Okay, so there still is some.
Is this house, and again, I've heard things about it, that it is full of mold and there's some structural issues. Is it, I am not the one to tear down houses. I'm very historically preservation minded. But is it financially worth it to save this building? Yes, please.
Because I've been thinking about the same question, but I didn't know if it was my swim lane to talk about.
So easily, it's probably gonna cost us more money to renovate this house, but like I said, we're here to work with the town and pretty much keep the same look. So we're willing to go through that extra investment, and, you know, honestly, it also gives us another leasable space. So it's not like it's hurting.
You do
us
get
in the long
something
run.
out of
Yeah,
it long
right.
term. I see. Okay.
And then also to piggyback on what Dave said from the developer's perspective is I too get calls on a somewhat regular basis for people that are looking for space that have those small businesses like,
Yeah.
for example, the Rivers Financial, tax professionals that just moved into that house on Merrill. So whether folks like it or don't like it, I can at least tell you that there's a market demand apparently for it.
I'm not saying I'm for tearing it down. I'm just, my preservation part of me says, no, don't. But
No, that was our
I
initial
also,
two, and then, you
Yeah.
know, talking with the town, it ended up being, they,
and I agree with Adam, that there is a lot of call or some call for these historic structures, or I know it's anything over 50 years is historic. So there is a niche for that, and there are people that look for those type of buildings to set up a business in. So I appreciate trying to save it for sure. Okay.
All right, any other clarifications for either Adam or the petitioner?
I have one small thing. Big truck guy again over here. So say somebody doesn't want to deal with parking in the parking lot or even trying to find and navigate how to get to the parking lot, and they park on Merrill, which I'm not a huge fan of the influx of traffic on Merrill or parking on Merrill because it doesn't, not sure if it's wide enough to have 2 lanes of traffic with cars on both sides. I know it's pretty tight, but anyways, if you do park on Merrill and you need to get to the dentistry, what about a sidewalk? If you're not gonna open up the parking lot to Merrill, what about maybe a small sidewalk?
You're talking effectively where that kind of wall of evergreen
That
is. kind of
buffer, that landscaping buffer?
It probably have to be some steps, but I think we'd be receptive to that. You are
Or the
gonna
foot,
lose,
the foot traffic?
you're gonna lose the wall of vision that, you know, we're kind of looking for. You're gonna have that gap in it. But as far as being able to walk across the parking lot and then walk directly up to the entrance, I think that would be perfectly suitable. You're looking at maybe 1-2 steps. I don't know that it'll be ADA
Sure.
compliant.
Why couldn't you do the sidewalk down next to 411?
Yeah, come around the corner or bring it up off of Broadway.
Outside of that line of parking spaces.
Mm-hmm.
or technically, right here, we could have a break open that comes out the side.
I don't love bringing it right by the dumpster. Personal preference, but we could bring it up and over. We could bring it up and join with the 411 sidewalk. And bring it that way. That way it's a little further away from the dumpster, you know, we can have some shrubbery in between there.
What's the elevation change from the sidewalk on Broadway or US 36 to
About
the
three.
main entrance? Yeah, so your general, we're down this corner. Adam, can you go up to, can you?
It's fine. 3 feet-ish,
Because I was thinking off of,
because it goes
you
one.
got, you now have new sidewalk.
It's a lot lower on the 411 side, and then it goes up to like around 3 feet towards 401.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, the 401's about 3 feet.
I mean, you've got connected infrastructure that goes all the way down to Broadway though, right? Could you just
We
have,
do have sidewalk
so
already
you could
in
have the
place.
tie-in come off of Broadway though instead,
There's a-
if we can make it ADA compliant. I'm saying if you go around the corner onto
Yeah.
the new sidewalk, you could create a tie-in off of the new sidewalk on Broadway, if the elevation change isn't huge
I don't see me making it ADA compliant wise.
with that.
I don't. If they were to walk all the way around, I think we could easily do that.
That's what I mean, like, right, basically, then you walk around to the front face of your building where your entrances are gonna be anyway, right?
Yeah, I mean, one thing to consider is realistically, the scenario that Chris pointed out is, I'm thinking if somebody parks over here, they could use this sidewalk and
That's
get
what I'm
out,
saying, is the
yeah,
tie-in
get out
come around the
get
corner.
out towards Broadway.
Is there a tie-in on Broadway?
Oh,
And
that
that
doesn't look like it.
Yes,
That's what, is there
Yeah.
ped access from Broadway to Harmony?
401 entrance can have a sidewalk that continues to the parking lot.
yeah, the sidewalk,
Yeah.
it dives into the parking. Or does it?
That's
Yeah,
exactly
we
where I
could-
was thinking, you could have it tie into
we could
either
tie
there
it
or
in
the,
or
up
tie it
close to the
somewhere.
building
That-
there.
That part is a bit higher.
That's
than
what
the
I'm-
side Broadway, and that's also where the signage got put in, so people don't drive off the end into heavy traffic. I think that was put in by NDOT.
I think it would be a semi-viable solution to have a sidewalk off of 401 on the south side that runs east to west, connecting the parking lot to maybe
Because
tie it all.
the entrance for the dental office is going to be in this.
Yeah,
Can you put, yeah, thank you. So that's where the entrance is gonna be.
So just to clarify, that's the regular entrance, and then since there would be anesthesia patients here, we do have ADA access since we wheel them out in wheelchairs. So the entrance above here where there are the handicap spots, that goes right off of a ramp from another door, and that's right next to the surgical suites.
Okay.
I guess back to the question is there ADA access to the sidewalk that is between the parking lot and Broadway?
I don't think there is any entrance to the property for Broadway right now.
What about that sidewalk that dead ends right there next to that first handicap spot, right there? No, right, yeah, right there, Adam.
I have
that's a
not-
grass strip, I think.
No, he's correct. That is sidewalk in front of the parking spaces. I have not looked at the elevations between those two. I think that would be a pretty viable solution to give sidewalk access.
Yeah, that's a good catch that you guys saw. I would recommend that if you're inclined to approve it, that you simply require that there's some sort of sidewalk connection from Broadway to the site.
Yeah,
Probably
with,
be the best spot to add it to.
with the amount of investment that was just made in the town to make it walkable, I think, having a large business center connected to that makes a ton of sense.
For sure.
Good point.
So
I would think that could be made relatively easily ADA accessible, that spot right there, couldn't it? Even if you had to come,
My concern is if it's a Broadway traffic.
oh, well,
I mean, I would think steps would work out better there, and we can probably have a better chance of making it ADA off the 401 side, just so there's that option.
okay. And it's ADA off of Maple as well, isn't it?
Correct, because that
Yeah.
goes to a main entrance to the Fortville Business Center.
Is there a connection to the dental suite from the business center?
No,
Oh,
those will be ice.
It doesn't look like there's much of an elevation change. Looking at the street view from Broadway, I would think that would be a good place to put one in there. My only concern still is off of Merrill Street. I mean, if I could tell you the lesser angel of my nature, if I parked on Merrill Street, I'm gonna cut through your trees. That's all I have. I mean, that's all it is.
Say, I can put steps there, but I almost guarantee I can't make it ADA.
No, but
Yeah.
if you have the entrance off of Broadway that could be ADA and the entrance from around the other way, you'd have your workarounds. But I would just hate to see your landscaping get
Footpath.
footpathed, and I promise that's what would happen.
So are we hearing a sidewalk on the, I don't know that it matters if it's closer to the 401 building or the 411 building, whichever way it is. There's smarter people in here to figure that out than me. So one way, and then to have that sidewalk access and then making that point up there off of Broadway somehow, I think you guys, I mean, you're the architect. Make sure they don't roll out into Broadway.
Yeah, I'm not gonna promise you anything until I look at the elevations, but I'm certain I can make something at both locations.
So we require pedestrian access off of Broadway and off of Merrill.
ADA off of Broadway.
Yes.
Yeah, and then, it can be steps off of Merrill. And then the other thing was
Accessible.
Adam already had a recommendation on there about the signage, which we've already discussed. And then you guys are already planning on doing lighting in the parking lot, correct?
It's not on any of the submitted plans. We were waiting to finalize the layout, and then I'll do photometrics. I do electrical engineering by day, so I'll send those over.
We had that as a condition and then they have,
Yes, yeah, and then Adam and staff can work out
then they can just do that. Yeah.
We're talking about a lot of conditions, though.
Four, right?
Do we want to consider those as conditions, or do we just want to have them make the changes and we come back in a month?
I'm okay with conditions. And then if they need to come back, they can.
These conditions are, they're not the one, typically what concerns me is like when we've had the PUDs and they can do whatever, it's Pandora's box, but this is pretty, I would say this is pretty cut and dry, that they've got.
Yeah.
What, we just hem them in with the, whatever the wording is you'd like to see in the conditions.
I
Make it as
agree.
specific as needed.
I agree.
I mean, if you're not comfortable with that, we can always vote that way as well. But there seems to be a good track record here to compromise and finding solutions. All right, any other discussion, conversation before we move to a vote? All right, I'm gonna do this in two parts. First, let's start with the RZ 03-2024 recommendation to the town council. So I would look for a favorable recommendation or a negative recommendation regarding ordinance 2024-12C, which is the rezone of 411 South Merrill Street from residential 3.5 to commercial community.
Motion for favor.
Motion for favorable recommendation for part C to rezone from residential to commercial.
All right, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. Favorable recommendation passes. We will pass that along. Moving on to the second, and that was unanimous.
Mhm.
Or, excuse me, we'll do a little bit of housekeeping here. Apologies, 5-0. Okay. Next, I would look for a motion to approve with conditions, or deny the concept plans, which is the site plan, landscaping, elevations and lighting for Harmony Dentistry, located at the former Grace Baptist Church, which is STP 04-2024.
Because we have so many conditions here, can we break this into two? One like the elevation and lighting plan, and then the concept site and landscape plan?
I think if you're going to recommend that, then you're not going to get my vote for it anyway, because we're making this way too complicated. I would rather we push 30 days.
Procedurally, should we do it all as concept plans?
It doesn't matter either way. I mean, if you want to, what I would recommend, if you're inclined, is to say, if you're inclined to approve it, you say, motion to approve the concept plans, with 4 criteria or 4 conditions that I think were discussed.
Okay.
And then spell out what those 4 conditions
What the
are.
conditions are. All right,
Make a motion to approve the concept plans for the site plan, landscaping, elevations, lighting for the Harmony Dentistry located in the former Grace Baptist Church. Conditions to be: the monument sign on Broadway shall be removed because of site visibility issues at the intersection. 2, sidewalk access from Merrill to be added. 3, ADA access from Broadway to be added. And 4, lighting add to the proposed parking lot.
quick quick amendment. Do we need to use the updated site plans from 12:30, which
Yeah,
includes
if
the
you wanted
parallel
it.
parking and widened?
Oh,
Yes.
Do you want to add that as a fifth condition?
how about we could take action on the concept plan dated 12/30
Okay,
with the 4 added conditions?
with the 4 added conditions with the concept site plan 12:30. All right, do I have a second?
I second.
All right, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
All right, and none abstained. Motion carries. Congratulations. Thank you all. That concludes our new business for the evening. Appreciate everybody's time this evening for what was a very detailed case. Next, we will move to the last 2 items on our agenda tonight, board comments and then staff comments. I just want to, as we close 2024, I want to thank everybody for your service this year. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for, to the public as well, for showing up, for providing your opinion. It is greatly valued. We do not take these decisions lightly, so we appreciate the input and the participation of the community. That's what makes Fortville great, in my opinion, is that we do have a very lively community. So with that, appreciate the service. Amanda, thank you. I know this is your last meeting.
Yes, thank
For
you.
years and years of service, we very much appreciate it. You will be greatly missed. 5 years, man.
I'm
So
And just to see all y'all are doing.
please don't be a stranger. You might be on the other side of the microphone, right?
I do want to make a comment, especially to all the public input. I know sometimes it doesn't necessarily feel like it goes the way you would like it to go. I've been on the other side. We hear you. We're put in some pretty tight positions sometimes, and we have to weigh the pros and the cons and the growth of this community. And sometimes they're not popular decisions, but we try to make the best decisions we can based off of the information we have. So I don't want the public to think that we aren't listening when their comments come up. We do listen. Sometimes it does make us think outside the box. Sometimes we tweak things because of it, like I feel like we kind of did a little bit tonight. Not necessarily though to maybe what you thought the outcome was going to be, but my point is we do listen. So thank you.
Thank you, Amanda. One last comment as we wrap up for 2024. I think this is my second year now serving as president, which I've been happy to do. I appreciate it, but I am very much open to if anyone else would love to take the mantle.
Nice try, buddy.
Just saying, value, mixed leadership. There's a lot of value in having folks. So
You do a
Just-
great job.
just tossing that out there. If anybody's thinking about it, would love to see that, would support that in 2025. So with that, that's all I have for 24. Look forward to a fantastic 2025. Thank you, Alex. Thank you, Adam. Appreciate everything you guys do. Andy, sorry you're back in the hot seat again, but we appreciate having you. With that, I'll move to any staff comments. Out of
Nothing for
anything.
me, unless you had any questions on anything.
I'm good. Anything for Adam before we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All right, motion to adjourn for 24. Seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, thank you so much. Have a great year. Great
Happy
new year.
everybody. Alex, Happy New Year.